So here we are today for our conscious conversation. If you weren't here last Sunday, no worries. You can hop online. You can hop on YouTube, like I said, and you can see the talk, or you can download the app. The app has them all easily listed, so you can just pop onto the app and look at messages and go through them. But last Sunday, we talked about the power of imagination. The power of imagination. A faculty that is greatly underused as part of the spiritual practice. Today, we're going to dive into how we use it. Have you noticed that oftentimes when we talk about prayer or spiritual practice, we say, oh, can you hold this in prayer? But we don't talk much about what that means and what we do. We often say, let's activate the power of the imagination, but we don't often go into what that looks like, what that feels like, and how we can power up that practice so that it is active, that it is strong, that it is creative. In Unity, we believe that we have divine faculties. Charles Fillmore, who is one of Unity's co-founders, created this blueprint of 12 divine faculties. After looking through spiritual traditions throughout the world and throughout history, he came up with what they have in common on their bright side. Not the limitations, not the judgments, not the dogma that tend to keep religion punitive, authoritative, limited in any way. But those qualities of religion and spiritual practice and native practices that lift people up, that he felt like were in alignment with the ideas of God, known by many names and not needing a name at all. And he came up with these 12 powers or faculties, and he said, when we practice these, when we activate them within our being, and mind you that the yogic practices, they have the chakras, and these are similar in alignment with those, right? But there are these 12 faculties, and when they are lifted together, when they are developed, that's when the awakened consciousness is activated. When they are developed, when they are expanded, when they are utilized, when they are activated, we reach our highest potential. We reach enlightenment, we reach awakening, we reach mindfulness, whatever you want to call it. And so the power of imagination is one of those faculties that is so often underutilized as adults. And today we're going to just dive more into how do we use it. Neville Goddard is an author and a spiritual teacher of old that really emphasized the power of imagination. He said imagination and faith are the secrets of creation. The secrets of creation. So our work is to get those secrets out in the open. Martin Luther King, the great spiritual social leader and visionary, said, faith is taking the first step even when you can't see the whole staircase. Faith is taking the whole step even when you can't see the whole staircase. Now, you might have heard that before, right? You might have heard that before, but can you just hear it, or can you feel what it feels like to actually do that? If I were to take the next step without seeing the whole staircase, what does that do within your being? To really think about that power of faith. It's not taking the next step when you know there's a stair there, right? It's not going like this and going, oh yeah, I've got faith, I'm going to take the next step. I got it, here I am, I took the next step. I activated my faith. No, it's standing up here when you cannot see the staircase. You cannot see the future. You cannot see what's next. You cannot see that what you know in your heart or what you desire, what you think, what you're getting could be. You can't see how it could possibly be there because from all human senses, it's not there. You would fall off into nothingness. The resources aren't there. The power of the miracle's not there. Whatever, it's not there. Don't you just wish I could just do this and just walk right over you? Just kidding. Just keep walking. But that's what we do when we activate the power of imagination. And it's a big power. It's a big faculty. And it brings up stuff in us because the human condition and the human vision looks out and says, it's not there, don't walk. It's not there, don't step. It's not there, it's not possible. It's literally not possible. When I look at what can happen from looking out here, it's not possible. The other thing the ego mind or the human condition does is it sits here and it looks on the edge of faith and it says, how can I make that stair possible? Well, okay, I could take apart these chairs and I could just build a step right here. I could get a bunch of people to come up here and try to kind of help me and make stairs with their hands. And these are the ways. Maybe if I took the wood from the balcony and I put it down here, that would work and I could just make a bridge and then I could do it. And, oh, but that's not going to work because, I can't put that together. I don't have the tools to do this, And you know what happens? Nothing. Nothing happens because we're trying to create from rearranging what is in front of us. And that's simply taking limitations and moving them all around. Many of us have experienced our homes and thought, I'm going to create order in this home. Finally, I'm going to create order. I'm going to let go of some things. I'm going to move things around. But unless we actually let go of some things, right, we just end up reordering things. We think we might be doing something to transform the space, but in actuality, we're just moving stuff to different closets. And that's ordinary. That's part of the human condition, and that's part of what we do. When we look at our social systems, when we look at our political systems, when we look at our lives, when we look at our bank accounts and our jobs, when we look about anything, we look out at what is. And what the mind does is the mind says, how can I rearrange this to make it better? How can I rearrange this to make it more for me, more in line with my vision? But that's not what we're called to do. We're called to bring faith into union with imagination to contribute to the growth and evolution of humankind. We're here to activate this power. And we will either rearrange and reconfigure what is in front of us, or we will reinvent. We will invent, and when we reinvent, we come from the creative process, and we use imagination. All great luminaries have developed and actualized their advanced skills in the area of both faith and imagination. They must have. Otherwise, they would have drawn a vision from what was in front of them, or they would have drowned all of their spiritual power in looking at the limitations. And they would have lost hope. They would have lost faith. So how do they do it? How do they do it? Martin Luther King didn't just look at the world of racism and segregation and rearrange things. He didn't just say it's time to turn the tables on who is in power. Let's make some other ethnic group the underdog. Let's take the power and put it into other hands. Rather than saying, I have a vision, a dream of a black child and a white child holding hands. He didn't say, I have a dream that now it's going to be flip-flopped. And this hatred, this racism, this inequality is now going to be applied to another race so that my race is free. No. He drew forth a vision from what was not in front of him and what evidence was not seen in front of him, right? Think about the power that took to stand on the edge of that stage and to keep speaking life to a vision which you do not have evidence for. How do they do that? I believe they go directly to source. I believe that's what each of us does. We go directly to source and we get it. We get a genuine, authentic experience of wholeness, and it becomes known in us, and it is so strong within us that it is alive. It is something that cannot be destroyed. It is so alive in our imagination that it is real to us. We know it, and we know what we're walking into. We know what we're offering. We know that there, in fact, is a staircase there. But we know also that we cannot wait for the world to build it. We must know it first in our minds and then walk it in experience and reality. Jesus overturned the paradigms of the time he was living in. He lived outside of the box. He taught outside of the box. And he didn't teach, let's just transfer the power to some other human system. Let's just rearrange all these systems. No, he got everyone out of the paradigm of thinking that the human systems could control and limit them into a new sort of determination in life where he taught people that they are one with the one, to go directly to source, to not even concern yourself with rearranging what's in front of you and just be born anew. Just birth what comes from your heart of hearts, what comes from the scripture written upon your heart. He didn't teach a transfer of power, but he taught a transformation of consciousness. So why faith and imagination? Why are they needed together? It's what allows us to believe, to hope, even in the midst of evidence to the contrary. A lot of us are seeing a lot of evidence that doesn't align with what we want to put our faith in, no? Experiencing it within our own hearts. Faith is that faculty that is linked with substance. It's linked with our ability to shape substance. Everything is first a thought in mind, and then an expression in creation. When we lose that faith, when we lose hope, we go low. Martin Luther King said, "No person has the right to reign on your dreams." He said, "We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope." He said, "Let no man pull you so low as to hate him." Hear that. Let no man, and you can put in there, let no thing pull you so low as to hate him. Let no thing pull you so low as to hate life. Let nothing pull you so low as to release or stop using the power of your faith and the power of your imagination. He said, darkness, this is my all-time favorite, darkness cannot drive out darkness, only light cannot do that. Hatred cannot drive out hatred, only love can do that. So that's our charge. It's ordinary to be drawn low. It's very ordinary. It's part of the human condition. It's part of the spiritual path to be able to presence things which bring us low, things that bring us grief, things that bring us suffering, things that bring us into struggle. All of that, that is natural and it's ordinary to stay there. And there's no judgment on staying there. That's what most of humanity does for their entire lifetimes, for this brief moment of light that we share together in this thing we call a lifetime. But we are not here to be ordinary. We're here to be extraordinary. We're here to be extraordinary. We're here to tap into our greater self, not just the common denominator of what we are as carnal beings. To engage in really the true potential of what is here for us. Our work is to keep ourselves lifted so that we may be of service. This week I was talking to my sister and she asked how I was doing and I just shared with her a little bit of this week, and actually right as I was answering the phone with her, I had been posting a question on our ministers' discussion group. And so I'd gotten online on Facebook, and I posted a question for the ministers. And as I posted it and I was getting off of Facebook, she called. Now imagine all these things going on in 2 seconds. And she called. I put my earbud in. I answered the phone as I'm processing what came up right after, because, you know, you can't get onto social media for a second without it grabbing you, right? And as I'm looking at that, I saw a devastating post. It was a post prayer request, devastating. And I'm not going to share it with you today because I want to breathe space today. But what came to me this week from that post and what was happening with those people and other people that called me or texted me or connected with me needing prayer were things that could break anyone, could break you. And it wasn't just one, it was one after the next after the next. And right then my sister called, and I couldn't just unread what I had read. And she knows the individuals as well. And so the beginning of our phone call was just crashed and crushed. And it's not a common thing for me to pray with my sister. But how can you even start a conversation when the world just broke open? When the world just fell apart? How can you not take a day, a week, a month to just be in tears, to process, to allow something to move through you so that you could still stand tall, you can still be of service, you could still be in love and in light and in faith and in hope? And so there we are, stuck in this moment on the phone. And what do? Do we just disregard the immensity of what we just heard by moving on to the rest of the conversation? Do we spend the whole conversation falling apart together about it? So we took a few breaths together. There was a little bit of silence. And then we just moved into a natural prayer of affirmation. And my prayer was that these beloveds that were little ones that lifted off into their freedom form, my prayer was that they would come to their parents and their aunt and their sibling and all who love them in such clear and distinct ways that everyone here on the planet would know they are safe, know they are whole, know they are free, know they are alive and well in their freedom forms. And we just breathed that in together. Because friends, that's one of the things that I come to when we're in these big experiences and in these tender times, is praying that we get an experience of knowing that we know something that cannot be taken away from us, something that gives us faith. Gives us faith, gives us hope that cannot be taken away. I had another beloved in my prayers this week who went into the emergency room with particular conditions and everything very concerning, everything very dire. And we said a prayer together, and this beloved has a guru, and I had remembered that I had ash from that guru of when our beloved took a trip to India and got to sit with this guru. And so in her proxy, as her, I went and had an experience and a prayer with the ash, sent a blessing off, but it was all I could do not to get in the car and drive to where she was so that I could sit in a chair in the room with her the whole time and hold vigil. So instead I sent the message, I sent the video of the prayer activity, and then I said, you find a seat in that room and you put me in it, and you find a seat in that room and you put Sai Baba in it, and we are here with you right here in the room. Believe that. And then I released it. I had an experience with my little one. I have a 3-year-old, and she is in this funny phase where she doesn't want to do certain things by herself. She wants you to go with her. And especially in the dark, if there's any lingering of darkness, if it's not completely bright, she wants a buddy. And so one of the mornings just recently, we were hanging out in the living room. We had my mother on FaceTime. So my mother's on a little phone, on a little stand, hanging out with us in the living room. And my little one and I are sitting there, and we have, those fireplaces? Does anyone put the fireplace on their TV where you can open your TV, go to YouTube, and you can tell it just about anything? Like, I want a serene mountain scene fireplace. I want a cozy cafe. I want a log cabin fireplace, whatever it is. You can get the crackling sounds. You can get guitar acoustic music. So we had on our little crackling fireplace, and we're sitting there, and she rings the bell and just says, "I have to go potty. Who's going to come with me?" And I'm thinking, I'd like it to be my mother. I'd really like not to have to get up to go with you. And so I say to her, "Why don't you go ahead and take Mimi with you? Mimi will go." And she grabs the little phone on the little stand, and she starts walking to the dark hallway. Okay. And she gets closer to the hallway, and she slows down. Then she comes back and she says, "I need you to come with me." And I said, "Oh, Mimi will go. That's fine. Mimi will go." And she goes, "But it's dark, and I need someone who lives with me to come with me." And then she says, "It's dark, and I'm double scared, so I need double people to come with me." I almost activated the power of her imagination to the degree that I could be off the hook from doing the potty run with her. It was this close, friends. It was this close. And isn't that part of our spiritual practice, though? That's what the spiritual practice is. That's what the power of imagination and faith is. It's going beyond the senses. See, what she tuned into, what she realized as she was processing, like at first she realized, yeah, I've got Mimi, I've got someone. That's all I asked for. And then she started getting human. And she was like, "You know what? I can't smell Mimi. I can't feel Mimi. Mimi's just a picture on a phone. Is Mimi really even here?" But she is here, isn't she? If she's there in consciousness. But my little one wanted someone she could touch. She could feel, right? Something, you could smell it, you could feel it. All of the senses. And all she had was the visual. Our job as spiritual practitioners, our job on the path, is to move through the limitation of our senses that tell us something is not real, and to hold to consciousness. To recognize that right now we are in a body being that has eyes, that has a nose, that has a mouth that can taste, that has a body that can feel, that can hear sound, that we have all of these senses, but this is not the all of us. When we do that, we activate different ways of knowing and creating. We don't need to see something in order to experience it. We don't need to hear it. We don't need to smell it. We can create it. We can call forth the comfort, the strength, the faith, whatever it is we need through our divine faculties rather than our human faculties. And that, friends, is what it takes when you are going through grief of biblical proportions. It takes opening up all of those faculties and all of those senses. If we stay tied to our vision and our eyes doing it for us, it won't be enough. Our need for touch, it won't be enough. But if we develop these faculties that are divine faculties, we will create a whole new set of conditions and a whole new experience from which to presence our world. And they're always there for us, but we often stay limited in the human condition. And not everyone has that advantage, disadvantage, whatever you want to call it. Not everyone has it, right? Because some people lose their vision. Some people lose their sense of smell. Some people are born without those things. Some people can't have a sense of touch in a way. If someone's highly autistic, they can sometimes, need to be free from touch. And what they say in scientific studies and experiences with humans, they say that when one of your faculties, your human faculties, goes out, the other ones heighten. Right? So if you don't have your sense of sight, your abilities magnify and multiply in other areas. So imagine for a moment what would happen if we, not that we would lose those other faculties, but if we would consciously and mindfully dive into the knowing that if we set them aside for a moment and started developing the inner faculties, our spiritual faculties, how much more would be available to us? What would we be able to see that is not in front of us? What would we be able to know that we don't need evidence through our senses to know? That is the work of the living luminaries. That is the work of the visionaries that have come before us. That is the work of anyone and everyone who I believe has left on this planet, left for humanity, transformation, growth, spiritual teachings that are worth something. And it's available to each one of us. But we can get consumed in the suffering, can't we? We can get consumed and feel like we're stuck. We can get consumed in whatever it is. You fill in the blank for your own life. We can get consumed in fear, in anger. And when we get consumed in these things, it's normal and it's human. But the sad part is we begin to create from there. Because we create from our being. This creative process, our creative faculties, it's like a great listening, but it listens to not just what we say we want, not just if we go into prayer and we say this affirmation, that's what I want. No, it is an energetic listening for what we really believe. So that law of mind action that we talk about in Unity, that our thoughts create our world, it really shouldn't say thoughts. It's like the whole vibrational frequency of what we believe creates our world. It's what we feel to be real. Just like a shark in the water, you can be scuba diving with a shark, and you can be like, I'm not afraid of you, I'm not afraid of you. But if your heart is racing, if it is thumping and bumping under there, that's what the shark hears. That wave goes right through the water, right to the shark's ear, and it goes, pray, right here. Got it. We create from what we become, what we consider real. Luminaries teach us to steward our mind-body temple in great ways so that we can come from love, so that we can create from light. And that takes a practice of releasing everything else, letting it mindfully flow through us, but stewarding this mind-body temple. Howard Thurman in Jesus and the Disinherited said, above and beyond all else, it must be borne in mind that hatred tends to dry up the springs of creative thought in the life of the hater, so that his resourcefulness becomes completely focused on the negative aspect of his environment. The urgent needs of the personality for creative expression are starved to death. A man's horizon may become so completely dominated by the intense character of his hatred that there remains no creative residue in his mind and spirit to give to great ideas, to great concepts. That's what we can fall into. That's why the power of faith is so important. Because the mind is a powerful field of activity and the heart is a magnifier and a multiplier of that activity. When we're praying, what do? We condition ourselves with divine ideas. We see it, we feel it, we think of it. We try to get all of our faculties that are human in line with the divine ideas, with the highest outcome that is available to our visionary minds. And we try to use our spiritual faculties and call them forth and call them in. That's how we do it. One of the prayer requests that came to me this week was of a beloved little one, about 8 years old, turning 8, a twin. And I should have noticed that I didn't get I did notice that I didn't get a Christmas card from this family this year, but I should have known to check in because of that. But I got linked on a prayer email that one of these little beloveds had a bone tumor, and it turned out has a diagnosis of a bone cancer and had to get a surgery, an amputation. And it went into details, and again, just heart opening, heart bleeding, heart feeling. And for me, it's important to feel these things when they come. It's important for me. I can't stuff them. If I stuff them, I'll fall apart. If I stuff them, I'll fall off the edge. But I also can't get so consumed in them that I'm not helpful to those people, right? I can't stay in his story of what my mind goes into, the fears, the pain, the suffering, thinking of the mother and the father, thinking of the brother, thinking of what is ahead. But the beauty is that in this conversation that went back and forth, there was one beloved supporting this family that was already activating the principles, talking about how this little one was the more athletic. Hear that? Hear what I just did? Was the more athletic, is the more athletic. Saying was the more athletic one of these two beautiful boys says that he is no longer, because something happened in the physical world, something happened in the outer world, something happened in the experience that will limit him. No, no, no. No possibility in the mind of God, no possibility in spiritual truth and practice that anything that happens in this physical world can limit any one of us. Amen? That is the truth. So in this communication, there was also someone holding that truth, someone that shared that the family is already connected with someone else that has had to go through this same experience, that has moved through this, that is active, that is sporty, that is engaging in competitions, that is engaging in experiences, and that is having a full life and a full world, and they already have that connection started. And so what I know is mine to do is to continue to visualize, to picture this little beloved, to picture him laughing and singing and being active in his sports and triumphing and knowing himself as a unique, unrepeatable expression of God. So whatever it takes for my human self to be present to what I experience through my human senses, it is incumbent upon me to stand in my spiritual practice and not just say, I'll pray for you, and then go into rehearsing my worries. But to say, I'll pray for you, and to really look at how do I do that? How do I do that? I picture you in the future. I picture you laughing. I picture you smiling. If you're in a hospital room, I picture you walking around. I picture you doing yoga. How do you pray for people? Can you go into your imagination and visualize it? And not just visualize it. When we say visualize, we mean feel it, know it, become it, so that it comes from you. So there is no doubt something on your heart today. There is no doubt something that has affected you and your life, your family, that brought with it natural fears, natural thoughts of limitation. that brought with it no staircase. Let's just breathe together into a time of meditation. Allowing ourselves the space to go beyond what is human and ordinary, and to dive into what is divine and extraordinary. There are no limits to a unique, unrepeatable expression of God. There are no limits to what will birth from us when we are grounded in love and centered in life. So we release the temptation to rearrange what's in front of us, trying to find the good, trying to see how what may look bleak, what may look limited, what may look just awful, can be rearranged to feel a little better and not be so bad. No, we let that go. That's human. Sweet Spirit, be in me. The power to activate my imagination in such wondrous ways that I add to the infinite creation of being light. That I add more light, I add more love, I add more possibilities. Let me lean into wondrous visions with faith, knowing that this faith is shaping substance, that this faith is serving, offering, giving the resource of light. Let me offer my imagination practice on behalf of another beloved. Let me offer it to our world. Let me breathe into it for myself. I do that by feeling in this moment what it feels like to think it, to see it, to smell it, to sense it, to feel it on such a level that in my mind I am there. It's warm. It's palpable. I can feel the breath of the one I hold laughing. As they laugh, I can hear the sound of their laughter. I can see the color in their eyes, the gleam, the glistening. I can see the very tips of their toes point as they're dancing. I can see their hands raise high as they're stretching. I can feel it in my being that they are well, whole. I breathe into the fullness of my practice with the power of imagination. Inhaling and exhaling. I remember that this practice is available to me in each and every moment. For myself, my future, my life. I picture myself doing what I love, loving what I do, for my wellness, my body. I feel in these times of visualization, I feel my body well and whole. I send laughter and love to any areas that may feel discord. I create a sacred temple of light around the heart itself. I project this vision into the future. I visualize on behalf of society and all beings, spending time delighting in the imagination. Charles Fillmore says, in thinking, we accumulate a mass of ideas about substance and life, and we make them into form. We are the authors of these faculties. We flash light into the cells that make up the organs, and they at once respond to the thought, and out of substance, visible and invisible, make forms that correspond to the idea held in the imagination. Breathing into this practice. We begin to create the pictures that express on the canvas of life. Inhaling and exhaling into the silence. Inhaling and exhaling into the love. Expanding the power of imagination. By the power of this practice, may all beings have freedom from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings know themselves as emanations of love. May all beings know God as love. And may all beings know we are born blessed and here to be a blessing. And so it is.